Basketball fans, welcome back. So, Kenya versus Egypt. These two countries have matched up multiple times through the years, both at the club level and at the national team level. And in this video, I will be looking at a preview and prelude as to what to expect in this matchup tomorrow. So, today was a free day for Kenya. So, Kenya had no games today. And as by recording of this video, we have the Burundi versus Uganda game going on, and South Sudan versus Egypt will be playing today. So I'll also stay tuned to that because that matchup between South Sudan and Egypt will give us an idea on how this Egyptian team has been looking, because we've seen how they almost got upset by Uganda, and Uganda have shown that they are a very powerful force, and they took South Sudan to school yesterday. And Egypt, they started out strong by beating Burundi with a record about 50 to 60 points, which was, I must say, it was utter domination. But in this video, we'll be taking a closer look at Egypt versus Kenya. So Egypt has been owning Kenya for a couple of years now, dating back to the club level in 2022 when I was monitoring. But when I was watching the Afrobasket qualifiers, Kenya was able to beat Egypt for the first time in the 2021 Afrobasket women's Afrobasket qualifiers, which was historic for Kenya, and it subsequently led to Kenya going ahead and winning the whole title altogether. And since then, there's been an utter regression from Kenya, and you have not been able to see Kenya be able to be a worthy competitor for Egypt, both at the national team level and at the club level. So at the club level, the Egyptian teams, if I name them, is Sporting and Al Ahly, they have been owning our clubs, especially KPA. So any KPA player who's on the national team knows what they're going to be up against tomorrow, because we have seen what they have been doing to KPA throughout the years. And I'm going to start off with A Sporting. So A Sporting, they matched up with KPA multiple times, and in the 2022 WBLA, at the time of the Africa Champions Cup, and we saw KPA get knocked out in the quarterfinals. Even in the Zone 5, in 2022 in the Zone 5, it was A Sporting versus KPA, and A Sporting went ahead and won it. So it was back-to-back eliminations for Kenya, and that time it was KPA playing. Then in 2023, we saw the games that happened in this similar to what we have right now, but we had Kenya versus Egypt, but the venue was in Uganda. So Kenya versus Egypt, I'm also going to look at that game, and I'm going to touch on that, but I will also leave a link to the previous analysis I made 2 years ago talking about the flaws of Team Kenya and the real reason as to why they flopped in that game. So right off the bat, Egypt are miles ahead of Kenya. And in that matchup in 2023 in the FIBA Women's Afrobasket qualifiers, similar to what we are going to see right now, Egypt were elite. And they were able to dismantle and beat Kenya 82-57. So in the 2023 Afrobasket qualifiers, Kenya won 3 straight. They went ahead and beat Rwanda, they beat Uganda, and they beat South Sudan at the time. So they got eliminated by Egypt, and subsequently led to Kenya going for third. So this game in particular, I must say, was an utter capitulation performance, and it was expected because majority of the time there were so many flaws, and the wins masked the flaws of these players. And any single time Team Kenya gets a win, they kind of just have that ego that they're unbeatable. And we're seeing the same thing happen with yesterday's game, because yesterday Kenya beat Burundi, and a lot of people thought that, Kenya will still have a good output against Egypt, even despite losing back-to-back, which they conveniently omit. You see a lot of people talking about the Burundi game more than the first 2 games that they played. So I don't know if that's going to happen again, because majority of the time, with the inflated ego and the lack of awareness of these players, is shocking. Because even with the last go around in 2 years ago, when Kenya was at the peak, I can even say the peak, but the flaws were getting masked by the wins, they went ahead and thought that they had the ability to challenge an Egyptian team. And boy, were they wrong, because Egypt right off the bat dominated. And the real reason as to why they were able to go up in them points like that is their ability to knock down the three ball. So I've stressed this in multiple videos, and I've covered it multiple times, and I've said that Kenya lacks three-point shooters. And I don't mean the occasional 3 of 11 like what you have been seeing from some players like Natalie shooting 3 of 11, 2 of 9, poor shooting. So even with that situation, there is no guarantee that Kenya will be able to pose a threat against Egypt. The real reason as to why Uganda were able to scare Egypt and almost got away with that win, and that game was decided by, it was a clutch game, and it was the point spread was 3, was the fact that Uganda were all rounded. They were able to figure out how to score inside, and they were able to match the threes. So the biggest problem that Team Kenya has right now is, do they have the ability to match the threes? And at this point, as per the roster that we have, no. And that's the first chink in our armor. And in that game 2 years ago, Egypt shot at a 30% clip and 58% shooting from the field. So the major concern and worry with the Team Lioness always has been their predictability. And majority of the time, Team Lioness always looks towards scoring inside and getting a high percentage shot. And when they keep doing that and try to look for ways they can get inside and penetrate the defense, the teams catch on, and they go ahead and put a defense barring the inside shots, and they force us to be an outside shooting team, which has never worked for us, because Kenya, as we know it, and even as the roster that we have right now, we are not designed to be able to shoot the three ball. We can't shoot at an elite clip. We have never shot at an elite clip ever. Even yesterday's performance, even with our almost average 3-point shooting, it came from light defense from Burundi. So let that not cloud your judgment, because Egypt is a different animal. They're a different team. They're a different beast. And they'll go ahead and demolish us, especially when they're led by Ranim Eldagawi. So she's one of those players that caused KP a lot of problems in the WBLA qualifiers. I know the KPA players who are playing for Team Lioness right now, they understand what goes down when they face an Egyptian team, especially when it comes to a Sporting, Alali, Egypt in 2023, because majority of those players who played even in the FIBA Afrobasket Qualifiers 2023, they are still on the roster. Masiwanyama knows it, Vilma knows it, Victoria Reynolds knows it, Natalie knows it, Selena Okumu knows it, Christina Kinyi knows it. They know what happens. Even in that game in 2023, if I might reference it, you could see that there were major problems, especially when it came to scoring output and having creativity when it came to going about possessions, because we saw the usual suspects turn over the ball multiple times. So our turnover machine in Natalie still turned over the ball at a historic rate. And at the time, you could see that the lack of creativity was creeping in, and they were killing us in the transition, and our defense was very poor. And right now, the roster is far worse than what we had 2 years ago, because at least at that time we had Medina, but Medina was shut down completely, and she didn't even play that game 2 years ago that much. She only played like 15 minutes. So the roster that we have now is very bad, because our front court players are weak, and I'm saying this with the utmost disappointment and hopelessness, because Ranim Eldagawi, who's going to guard her, because nobody has been able to nobody has been able to contain her in Team Kenya, and she's always been that threat to the team. It's very upsetting to see teams just capitulate like that, and capitulate against Egypt every single time, both at the club level and at the national team level. So Ranim Eldagawi in the 2023 game, she played 28 minutes, damn near like 29 minutes, and she was the leading scorer with 23 points in there, and she shot at a 58.8% shooting from the field. And not only that, she had a double-double. So this is a player that we must monitor because her run has been spectacular. Even in this matchup, you can even see her efficiency is damn near exemplary. I know Victoria Reynolds' efficiency is there, but you can't compare these two players. They are two different players. I mean, one of them is only thrives when the defense is weak, and the other one will just keep scoring regardless of whatever opposition is there. And Victoria knows this. She knows, even the player Victoria and Natalie, Selena, Christine, all these players know what they're up against tomorrow. So it will be interesting to see the type of play that they will have. And in the team form, even looking at the way the recent, the win and loss column, you could see Egypt are here to take a loss. I can say they are the unbeaten team. And I don't think Kenya will have the ability to be able to stop or even be able to stop the or even add a loss to their record, because the only team that has come close to giving Egypt a loss is Uganda. And today we'll figure out if South Sudan are all that, because Uganda brutalized South Sudan yesterday. So we're going to also be waiting on that game, Egypt versus South Sudan. As per recording of this video, that game is yet to tip off. But anyway, it is what it is. So Kenya started off with 2 straight losses and only won that one game against Burundi. So Kenya is not that strong of a team, and they really, really struggle. Rebounds, Egypt out-rebounds them easily. Even when it comes to defensive boards, it's sad because there's we can't even get offensive boards easily with the front court players that we have. In the assist department, Egypt shares the rock pretty well, and they are a team that understands that they need to space the floor and also play defense, something that we don't understand. And the turnover bug that has always been hurting this team, and our number one turnover machine in Natalie, needs to understand that if she can't take care of the basketball, she should just ask not to play this game that much. Because if Coach Menga makes the brutal mistake of having this player play north of like 30 minutes or even 35 minutes, and the way she's a turnover machine who can't dribble, can't shoot, can't score, can't facilitate, can't create for herself and others, will be in for a blowout similar to what happened to Burundi. So to avoid that, try to mix it up. Try to have other players play that. Even I would rather the team just defers to 1 or 2 players. But anyway, it is what it is. The strategies that the Kenya Lioness team have so far have not been working. They may look like they are working in that Burundi game, but understand that Burundi was and is a weak team, and they were still looking for their first win. And at that time, they came out from a brutal loss from Egypt. So even if you look at, not even to compare, because there's nothing to compare between Kenya and Egypt, because Egypt, the basketball that they play is miles ahead of Kenya. And I don't think Kenya will have the ability to be able to win this game. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Going through the statistics, and you look at the way Kenya has looked in the past 3 games, the confidence in the Team Lioness is at an all-time low. And I don't think they stand a chance in this game at all. So, Egypt are a team that understand how to capitalize on points from turnovers. And this is something that has always been hurting the Kenya Lioness team. They do not understand that they need to take care of the basketball. And when you go up against a team that understands how to capitalize on your flaws, you'll be in for it, because that game will be very short. So they lead in points from turnovers. They lead in fast break points. They are the team that can thrive in the transition, given what the defense is. And looking at even how Egypt is set up, they know exactly what they need to do on the court. We don't see a lot of low IQ plays coming from Egypt, because Egypt, number one, elite offense and defense. And this is a team that understands how to play basketball the right way. And they are a team that don't guess around on the court. Because if you look at even the game yesterday, even despite Kenya winning, you could see majority of the points were generated from transition points. That's it. Half-court sets, Kenya is below average at that. Kenya is only at the 85th percentile when it comes to a team that plays little to no defense, and they can only win on transition. Because majority of the points that they were scoring, even in garbage time, just to pad on to the final tally, they were being generated from, steal, easy transition point, steal, easy transition point. That's it. There's no half-court offense. Now, Egypt is a team that thrives in half-court sets, and they know how to take apart Team Kenya when it comes to the half-court. And not only are they good at that because they're above average, they're also good at even playing the transition. So that really handicaps Kenya, because if you have a player like Natalie, you have a player like Victoria, if you have players like also even Selena there, it's very difficult to be able to have good half-court sets, even generate good shots when you have players who are, playing poorly. So it's going to be a bloodbath tomorrow, and I know they know it, and they should be lucky that FIBA has given Kenya the rest day today, because they're going to need it tomorrow. And the game tomorrow will be at 1900 hours, so it'll be the second game of the day. So hopefully they'll be able to get enough rest to be able to go ahead and mix it up with Egypt, because that's going to be a very long game, and majority of the time the Egyptian games don't even have lead changes. They don't have lead changes. The people who play for KP and play for that Lioness team understand this very well, because I even talked about what Alali did last year in the WBLA qualifiers. I talked about what a Sporting did in the 2023 WBLA. So these Egyptian teams are no joke, and we cannot go ahead and shoot 37% from the field, because even if you look at the team comparison between Kenya and Egypt, you will see that the Egyptian team shoot way better at the 2-point field goal, something that we struggled at. And the only reason as to why our field goal percentage is up is because of yesterday's game. If you compare the first two games with Egypt and you look at how we played, you'll see like our low field goal percentage really much contributes to us flopping. I know basketball is not just about scoring. There are also other aspects of the game, like rebounding, blocks, steals, assists, and also other things that don't show up on the stat sheet, like team commitments, defensive assignments, all that. Those are things that Team Lioness struggle at, and this is the main reason as to why I even as somebody who wants to stake something on this game, the worst thing you can ever do is stake something on Kenya and Egypt, because number one, Egypt are known winners. They have produced two champions back to back. We saw a Sporting win back to back. Yes, last year it's Club Ferroviario da Beira from Mozambique that won it. It was a shocker, because majority of the people who are in the arena must have even said that, the Alali team, they were good enough to win it, but they couldn't. So you could see the Egyptian team, number one, they hail from North Africa. So there's been this thing that I've been mentioning multiple times, saying that North African teams, they thrive a lot in basketball. That's why you can see champions emerging. You can see a Sporting, majority of the players who play for a Sporting and Alali, they've converged into the Egyptian national team, and they are proven winners. These are players that are used to winning, and these are players that take basketball seriously, unlike our Kenyan players who are just depend on guesswork. We have a coach that doesn't even understand how to run which lineup works. So the Egyptian team, they only know winning, and they expect winning, because even last time Egypt were the team that won in the qualifiers. So, and they were able to make it to the women's Afrobasket in 2023. So I don't fancy our chances in winning this game, because statistically we are down. And even if you look at the personnel that is there, do you actually believe there's anybody who can pose any resistance to this Egyptian team? I don't think so, because you have seen the output that Natalie has when she plays for the national team and KP against Egyptian sides. Very poor. You have seen what Victoria has produced when she plays against the Egyptian sides. Very poor. If you can you can even go and reference the games in the AWBL in 2023, and if you look at even the WBLA qualifiers where KPA lost and were brutally embarrassed by Alali in those games, you could see that at some point you just question and ask, do these players even have a strategy to be able to stop anything? And at that time, KPA still had they still had like new signings who are not Kenyans playing, but they still couldn't get the job done. So what makes people think that this all Kenyan team has the ability to beat this Egyptian team? I mean, if you think that Kenya has a chance, I'm sorry, there is no chance here. There is nothing here, and South Sudan are going to learn it. Let's say that Egypt versus South Sudan game goes the other way. Let's say South Sudan are able to do the unthinkable and beat Egypt. Do you actually think Egypt are gonna go back and lose another game? No. If they win this game, of course they're going to go ahead and push towards winning tomorrow's game. So there's no version of this where Kenya is able to go ahead and win it. So I mean, it's a sad situation that we have people who are very unaware of what they need to do on the court, especially when they play for the national team. We have players who don't even understand basic basketball concepts and elements, how you're supposed to operate on the court. It's unfortunate that these are the players that are going to go and embarrass us again. And I actually thought that the Ugandan game was bad, but tomorrow's game will be the worst. I know that win yesterday against Burundi crowded so many people's judgment. They were like, we still can win it. There's still a chance. We can make it back. Let me tell you, reality is going to slap us harder than a ton of bricks. And Egypt are going to show us how to play basketball. They have been schooling Kenya. Egyptian sides, both in the national team and in the club level, have been schooling Kenya, KPA, Team Lioness, every single time since 2021. And I don't think Kenya has a chance at it. So that's just about it. So do drop me your comments down in the comment section what you think about this. I mean, I'm waiting on to see the South Sudan versus Egypt game. It's going to be fire. So like, share, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Peace out.